The date is November 14th, 1992. Remember it? Because on this day, an entire family simply vanished. This isn't a simple story about a failed farm. It is a puzzle where the pieces refuse to fit. You believe you understand why places become empty. Debt, tragedy, the march of time. Simple, sad stories that we tell ourselves to make sense of the world. But the Havelka farm, hidden deep in the forests of South Bohemia, isn't simple, and it certainly isn't sad. It's terrifying. Step past the rusted gate. The no-entry sign hangs by a single nail. You can almost smell it. Decay, wet leaves, and rust. The house stands silent, watching you. Now imagine you're the first officer to break the seal on that door. The air inside is heavy. Still. On the kitchen table, 3 bowls of goulash sit unfinished, a film of mold now covering the cold stew. A fine layer of dust coats the spoons, undisturbed for years. In the living room, a child's wooden car lies on its side. Its wheels gave a final, silent spin. The calendar on the wall, a cheerful picture of the Shumava Mountains, is frozen, forever marking that Saturday. The official report is thin, just 12 pages, bound in a faded blue folder. It paints a clear picture. The Havelka family, it says, abandoned the property due to overwhelming debt. It was the dawn of a new era in Czechoslovakia. Old certainties were gone. Many small farms went under. The report notes a foreclosure notice from the Česká spořitelna Bank found tacked to the door. A clean, logical explanation. Case closed. Another casualty of progress. That's the official story. But here's the part nobody talks about. If you were fleeing debt, would you leave behind 8,000 koruna in cash? It was tucked inside a ceramic teapot on the highest shelf. A significant sum in 1992. Would you leave your grandfather's silver pocket watch, an heirloom that survived 2 world wars, sitting on the bedside table? Or the family photo albums filled with every christening, wedding, and birthday? These were not people packing in a hurry. These were people interrupted, mid-meal, mid-sentence, mid-life. And that brings us to the barn. A massive structure, its doors built from solid oak 2 centuries ago. The police found it barred shut. But pay attention. The heavy iron beam was not placed on the inside to keep something in. It was dropped into the brackets on the outside. A lock that requires someone to be standing out here. The family, father, mother, and their 10-year-old son was last seen by a neighbor heading towards that barn that afternoon. Fresh scratch marks were found on the inside of the door, deep gouges in the old wood. So, the final chilling question remains. If the Havelka family was inside, who slid the bolt? You step across the threshold. The first thing that hits you is not a smell. It's the silence, a heavy, weighted quiet that absorbs all sound. In the kitchen, time has stopped. A single cup sits on a heavy oak table. The dark ring at the bottom is all that remains of coffee brewed more than 70 years ago. Beside it, a newspaper. You can just make out the Gothic script. It's the Gablanzer Tagblatt, a local German language paper. The date is May 10th, 1945. 2 days after the final surrender of Germany in World War II. 2 days. Think about what that means. They heard the news. They knew the war was over. They must have felt relief. But they were not safe. Not yet. Because for this family, the war wasn't truly over. It was just about to come home. And here is where the official story begins to fall apart. Shall you leave the kitchen and climb the creaking stairs? Each step protests, each one a complaint against your weight. The air grows colder up here, stale. You push open a small painted door. This was a child's room. A single hand-carved wooden horse lies on its side, a silent casualty of a hasty departure. On the small desk, a book lies open, a German primer filled with simple words and illustrations. Apfel, house, mutter. This wasn't just a house, it was a home. A boy named Hans, perhaps, slept in this bed. He played with this horse. He traced these letters with his finger, learning the language of his world, a world that was about to vanish. The official records talk of the Benish decrees, the organized expulsion of 3 million Sudeten Germans. They were given, in most cases, less than 24 hours to pack a single bag. It could not weigh more than 50 kilograms. Look around this room. Look at the small treasures of a young life. What do you choose? What do you take? And what must you leave behind forever? Something catches your eye, a slight irregularity in the floorboards near the wall. You pry one loose with your fingers. It's not holding treasure, no gold, no jewels. It's protecting something far more precious. A photograph. You pull it from the darkness. A family of 4, squinting in the sun. The father, Joseph, stands tall and proud. The mother, Maria, holds a small baby, Greta. And next to her stands a small boy in shorts, clutching his mother's dress. It's Hans, the boy from the bedroom. They had farmed this land for over 200 years. Their ancestors arrived under the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They survived the First World War. And they built these stone walls with their own hands. This soil wasn't just where they lived, it was who they were. History calls it a population transfer, a clean bureaucratic phrase for something messy and brutal. But when you hold this faded photograph, you feel the truth of it. This was an amputation, a severing of roots that ran centuries deep. But the story isn't that simple. Leaving the house, you cross the overgrown yard to the barn. The great doors hang from a single hinge, groaning in the wind. Inside, it's a cathedral of decay. Shafts of light pierce the gloom, illuminating swirling dust motes. And in the far corner, hidden beneath a pile of rotting canvas, is an outline. Something large. Something made of steel. You pull the canvas away. It's not a tractor. It's not a plow. It is the rusted, unmistakable shape of a military vehicle, a German SDKFZ 251 half-track, an armored troop carrier. It has been sitting here in secret for decades. Why is this here? The photograph in the house told one story, a story of a family, of farmers, of victims. But this machine, this weapon of war, it tells a very different story. Was Joseph, the proud father in the picture, a simple farmer? Or was he something else? Suddenly, you are not just an observer of history. You are an investigator at a crime scene, and you must ask the most difficult question of all. Was this family fleeing persecution, or were they hiding from justice? You've been told a story about this place, a simple story, the official story. It says that in the early 1990s, after the Velvet Revolution, this state-run farm couldn't compete. It went bankrupt. The family who managed it for generations simply walked away. It's a neat little package, a sad but understandable footnote in a country's economic rebirth. But it's a lie. Every part of it. The truth is buried under decades of dust and deliberate silence. And here's where we start digging. The official records from the district archive are clear. The farm cooperative declared bankruptcy on April 12, 1993. Debts of over 2 million crowns, an open and shut case. But here's the part nobody talks about. We found another document, a land registry filing from just 6 weeks earlier, March 1st, 1993. It records the sale of a 4-hectare parcel on the northern edge of the property. The buyer was a shell corporation registered in Zurich, Switzerland. The price paid to the family was the equivalent of $2 million in today's money. Think about that. Does a family on the verge of total financial collapse suddenly receive a multi-million-dollar windfall? It makes no sense. The money trail doesn't lead to poverty. It leads to a payday, a massive one. So if they weren't poor, why did they leave? Now, look closer at the scene itself. Forget the documents for a moment. Just use your eyes. These are police photographs from when the farm was first reported abandoned. A pot of goulash, cold on the stove. 2 plates set for dinner at the kitchen table. In the child's bedroom, a drawing of a red tractor lies on the floor. The crayons scattered beside it. This is not the scene of a family packing their bags for a new life. This is not a planned departure. This is a life interrupted. Violently. You don't leave dinner on the table when you're moving out. You leave when you are forced out, when you have no choice at all. What could make a family vanish in the middle of a meal? The official story silenced the neighbors. But in a small village like this, stories don't die. They just go underground. The old-timers still talk about that winter, the winter of '93. They remember strange headlights on the dirt road late at night, black sedans, not the usual Skodas or Trabants, cars with government plates from Prague, men in long, dark coats who bought supplies in the village but never spoke a word. The official explanation at the time? Geological surveys. The government was supposedly testing the ground for a new reservoir project, a project that, strangely, was never mentioned again. It never appeared in any future development plans. It simply vanished, like the family. So let's connect the pieces. You have a secret multi-million-dollar land deal with a foreign company. You have a family that disappears from their dinner table, and you have mysterious government agents conducting secret surveys in the middle of the night. This wasn't a bankruptcy. It was an extraction. They weren't selling the land for its fields. They were selling what was underneath them. The family must have thought they'd found their fortune, a golden ticket out of a lifetime of mud and hard labor. They had no idea they were sitting on something far more valuable than they could imagine. Something a new government and powerful foreign interests would want to control, quietly. In 2018, a pair of urban explorers were inside the main barn. Under a pile of rotten hay, they found a wooden box. It wasn't an old family heirloom, it was a core sample box, the kind used in professional geological prospecting. And stenciled on its side, faded but clear, were 3 letters identifying the agency it belonged to. Not the Ministry of Agriculture, not the Water Management Authority. It was the State Office for Nuclear Safety. You've seen the decay, the rust, the collapse of a life's work, but AI's just wood and stone. The real story is always about the people. In the attic, tucked away in a moldy wooden chest, we found it. Not a diary, not a photograph album, something else entirely. A reel-to-reel audio tape. The machine spools it in, the magnetic heads make contact, and after 40 years of silence, a voice emerges from the hiss. It's a young woman. Her name was Elena. She was 17. The year is 1978. Her voice is clear, full of hope. She speaks of the summer heat, the smell of cut grass filling the valley. She describes her father, his hands thick with calluses from mending the tractor engine, coming in for dinner. You can almost see him, wiping the grease on a rag, his face tired but proud. Elena talks about her dreams. To see Prague. To study at the university. This farm was her whole world, but she was ready to see the one beyond it. The tape plays on. You hear the sounds of the farm in the background. A distant cow, chickens clucking outside the window. A normal life. But then the tone changes. Here's the part nobody talks about. Elena's voice drops to a whisper. She mentions the men in dark coats who came in a black Skoda sedan. They didn't ask. They informed. They spoke of the collective, the JZD, the Unified Agricultural Cooperative. They said this private land, this family legacy, was an outdated idea, an inefficient relic. Her father refused, politely at first, then firmly. The visits became more frequent. The whispers in the village started. The Novak family was difficult. They were standing in the way of progress. Elena describes the nights, lying in bed, listening to her parents talk in low, worried tones at the kitchen table. The words hung in the air: quotas, seizure, consequences. One night, the Hruby family's barn, just 2 kilometers down the road, burned to the ground. An electrical fault, the officials said. Case closed. But Elena knew. Everyone knew. It was a message. And now, listen closely to this. Her voice on the tape is trembling. She's recording late at night, hidden in her room. She says she found a letter, a final warning from the district committee. It gave a date, a deadline, only 1 week away. She speaks of her father's face, a mask of grim determination she had never seen before. He was gathering documents, old deeds, proof of ownership going back 100 years, as if a piece of paper could stop a tank. The tape crackles, the audio quality degrades, are worn thin by time and tension. Elena's last entry is almost buried in static. She says, "They are here again. I see the car at the end of the lane. My father, he told them he would never—" A sudden sound, a door opening downstairs, a sharp intake of breath from Elena. Then, nothing. Just the hiss and the gentle, rhythmic flap of a tape that has reached its end. You can almost hear it, can't you? The silence. It's a living thing in this place. Look at this wall. The wallpaper peels back like sunburnt skin, revealing the horsehair and plaster beneath. It crumbles to dust at a touch. This isn't an ending. It's a transformation. A wooden structure left to the elements can collapse in under 20 years. Steel surrenders to rust. Concrete, the very symbol of permanence, is split apart by the patient, relentless pressure of a single root. And here's the part nobody talks about. We see this as a failure, an economic loss, the end of a family's dream. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? A sapling, no thicker than your thumb, is pushing its way through the floorboards. In the corner, a spider has woven a web that catches the morning light, like a net full of diamonds. This isn't emptiness. It's an invitation. A new community is moving in, one that doesn't care about property lines or mortgages. In Europe alone, over 30 million hectares of farmland have been abandoned in the last half-century. Think about that. An area larger than Italy, easily being returned to the wild. Conservationists call it passive rewilding, a chance for nature to heal the scars we leave behind. You walk through these silent rooms. You see a rusted nail where a family portrait once hung, a faded patch on the wall where a child's bed used to be. The laughter is gone. The arguments have faded. The work is done. All that remains is the structure, the shell, and the land is taking it back. Piece by piece, everything we build is temporary. Our homes, our roads, our cities. They're all just borrowing time and materials from the soil. This farm doesn't remember its name. It only understands the cycles of sun and rain, of growth and decay. So you have to ask yourself, when the noise of our own lives finally fades and the wild things return to our doorsteps, what will they find? What story will the land tell about us?